Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes. Commendation and good news.
So I have some really good things. Okay, first of all, the Summer Arts Festival in Omaha, the high school created this, it's like a collage, and so they got second place out of 10 area high schools, so that's awesome. Our KMA, our soccer team had actually 3 representatives. I have one on the next page. The first one's Boston Hensley. He's a senior. He was on the all-offense team. Adrian Rubbles was on the all-defensive team. And then Braden Shepard was actually named the Junior Player of the Year for KMA Land. So, and then for the girls, we had Haley Erickson, Tyler Tingley, and Gracie Hayes, also all on the KMA 2023 girls soccer team. So, great representation from LC. For the KMA all tennis team, we had, for the boys, we had Christian Jensen, who was our Hawkeye 10 conference champion, and also finished 7th at state. And then we have Lainey Olson. She was also the Hawkeye 10 champion, and then so she also was ranked 6th in all classes, number one singles players. So in June we had. Do you know how many participated in this total? I do not. I can't remember what the number was, but there was quite a few that went down for the 2023 choir and band field trip in San Antonio. They had a fantastic time, great experience. I didn't go this year, but I told them, and when they go in, when's the next time in a couple years?
It's usually 3 or 4.
Every 3 or 4. Well, next time I'm going, so I call it. Although I might fly down and meet him, because 20 hours on a bus sounds a little bit rough for this guy, so. Our summer food program started this week. So far, we've had great turnout. And that is just a reminder to all our listeners out there that we offer free meals for any person under the age or 18 and under that wants to come and eat. They would have to go to Kreft, and it's not just restricted to those living in that area. It's literally any student under the age of 18, so, or anybody under the age of 18. You don't have to be an LC student. It's just an opportunity to come and get something to eat. So. Summer project update. I just kind of highlighted 2 of our bigger projects we have going on. The first one is the high school commons bathrooms. As you can see on the right, that is the boys, that is the girls' bathroom that's gutted right there. And so it's just completely gutted. If you can't really see it, but on the very far end, there's a block wall. So one of the things, our bathrooms did have 2 entrances, one on either end. And so what it ended up doing, though, is it created issues during the school day for kids coming in one bathroom or one door and out the other, or hiding back in this back where you see that new kind of wall right there, that just stone wall or that brick wall. That used to be kind of the back entrance to those bathrooms, where the kids a lot of times just kind of go back and hide back in there. So that'll be closed off, and then we're going to move on the other side, we have our Wall of Champions. We're going to move that over to either side of this doorway of the plaques, and then where the current Hall of Fame Wall of Champions, or whatever they call that, is, we're going to be putting in the new touchscreen digital display, where alumni or anybody visiting the school can come and use the digital display to look at yearbooks clear back as far as we can go, or to look at different years and their records, and it's really a cool thing. But we got to have a place to put the screen, because it's a big screen, so we'll put it there. So really cool things happening there. And then this here, actually, I think, is this one this is the boys' bathroom here. So this is the boys' bathroom, again, just completely gutted. So they'll look tremendous when they're done. The athletic field turf, I just got these pictures today. So as you can see, it's really coming into shape. That bright blue, the pictures don't do it justice. That Columbia blue, that accent really pops. It's pretty cool. The Titans right there, that's not in place right there. They just kind of laid it out. How they actually put in all of the numbers, all the hash marks, all the decals is they shave using almost like a sheep shears. They shave the grass in that area and then put the decal or the number or whatever it is into place and then glue it down. So it's kind of it's a very, you think about how many hash marks, how many tick marks are on a football field, it's a very time-intensive process. So, and then you can kind of see in the middle, they have the circle in place where our LC logo will go, and they're starting to lay out the other stuff. You go to the next page, Dave. So that kind of gives you another viewpoint. You can kind of see where the LC is going in the middle. And then they're working right over there. They're working on the Reavers. The Reavers are on the right end zone. Titans is in the left end zone. If you go to the next one, that again will show you kind of where the LC will go right there. Go to the next one, and then that's where the Titans will go. And then you kind of see in the left, very left corner there, the IW for Iowa Western. So they're just laying it all out. What you see there is kind of looks like sand or whatever on the field. That's actually just like where they shaved off the white tines. That's just leftover white tines. So once they get everything laid out, and what you see right there is that's just turf that's peeled back, so they can put the correct color in there. So once they have all this, everything laid into place exactly how it's supposed to be and glued down and everything, then they'll come in and they'll take a machine and they'll pick up all the loose tines or little blades of grass, and then they'll come back in and lay in all the little black pellets that actually, the blades of grass are about 2.5 to 3 inches long, and they will fill in all the way up to the very last quarter inch with those black beads, and then that creates that kind of cushion for when you run on it, so it feels like you're running on regular grass. And so right now the grass is pretty long, but by the time they're done, it won't stick up a quarter inch. So, all right, and that's it. All right, perfect.
When's it slated to be done?
So that's slated to be done. The bathrooms are slated to be done right at about August 10th. So
Okay.
it's going to be real close. The field will be done before July 4th, so another couple weeks, and that's going to be done. And then the scoreboard will be done shortly after that. So they've already got the old scoreboard taken out. They're laying down all the fiber that'll have to be used for the new digital scoreboard. And then they'll move the light pole from the south end zone over to the side so it doesn't shine in people's eyes anymore. We don't use it right now. It's totally non-functional. And then also that'll light up that end of the field and track, and then the new scoreboard will go in. So it's very, very exciting. So Titan Hills, the other big project we have going on is Titan Hills carpet replacement in all their hallways. That we're supposed to be getting a shipment in. I just talked to actually Pete, and Pete said the shipment was going to be in next week. So hopefully we'll get going on that as well. So.
Anyone else, commendation and good news? All right, we'll go on to comments and suggestions. This is the first time during our agenda that anyone in the audience or anyone online, if they want to type something in, they can address the board. All right, hearing none, we'll go on to consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Do we have an updated personnel sheet?
We do. There have been changes to H, license transfer, and then on the table, you have appointments for the District School Improvement Advisory Committee.
And that's what these,
That's on the table.
okay.
Could you go back to H, please?
H is license transfers. Moving a teacher from the middle school to the high school in the science program.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Wyledge?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Ms. Atkins? Oh, she says she's left the meeting, so she must have fell off.
All right. And Ms. Shuffle.
Yes. Reports, 6.01 Superintendent Report.
So a couple things. Dave, I'm gonna have you actually pull up, if you can, the bond website. I'm gonna talk about that for a brief second.
Do you
While
have the
he's-
URL, Josh?
So while he does that, a couple things real quick. So we did, Shelley Robinson, after 19 years, has submitted a resignation for LCLC director, and so we're gonna miss her terribly. But we are looking for a new director to try to, come in and pick up the reins of a great program. One of the things to note is, with the transition, I am going to be implementing a new online management portal. So it'll help with billing, there'll be a parent portal, registration for different courses or different, what we call, sections, billing. So it should be, a little bit different, but a little, just different, anytime a transition takes place, you try to see what we can do to provide something that might be a little more, accessible for parents. So, but we appreciate Shelley for everything she's done for the last 19 years.
Absolutely.
We do have, I put out a video last Monday? Yeah, last Monday about the bond and kind of explaining the bond, what it is, what it isn't. And then, so if you want to watch that, that is available on our website. It's also available on Facebook, and I did send it out to our parents as well. And then we also have a website that's up right now that kind of explains, what it is. Essentially what the bond is it's about infrastructure and about growth. That's it. It's not about athletic buildings. It's not about athletic fields. It's about what can we do to ensure that the educational opportunities that are provided for Lewis Central are done in a safe environment, in an environment that allows us to grow. And so I will be, as we move forward, it's a little bit different. It changes our timeline because originally we were supposed to try to do the bond vote in September, but with the new legislation, it'll be November. So it kind of changes our timeline a little bit. I don't want to do a ton of activity this summer and then everybody forget about it. So we will be sending out periodically, about every 2 weeks or so until we hit August, some information. But then once we hit August, then we'll be kind of plugged into informational mode. So the community can expect everything from forums to mailings in their mailbox, social media updates, email mailings, just whatever we can do to try to ensure that people are informed about what this is and isn't, what it's going to do, how it's going to affect their taxes, how it's going to affect the education we're able to provide students, whether we get it or whether we don't. I think that's always a good, people have asked me too, what happens if you don't get the bond, And so I think that's a good message to put out there as well. So making sure people know that the planning is continuing to develop, because, while we have a very good idea of everything that we need, we really can't start putting plans into place until we have, like, for instance, it's hard to put out what an elementary school will look like if we don't know exactly where it's going to go. And so that's one of the things we're going to be working on in the meantime. It's hard to put a ton of detail into middle school renovations and renderings because that all costs money through an architect if we don't know for sure exactly, whether or not we're going to have the funds to be able to do it. What you'd hate to do is invest, hundreds of thousands of dollars into very detailed plans, knowing that you might not have the money to actually do it. Because if we don't, then we need to shift and use those hundreds of thousands of dollars that we'd be paying architects and trying to make the best of the situation. So it's really is a fine balancing act right now, but that's one of the reasons that we paid Shive Hattery to do an assessment for us, is to make sure that we had industry standard numbers for everything, for all the decisions that are being made. So with that said, if you guys have a chance out there or here at the board meeting, if you have a chance to take a look at our website, lewiscentral.org/bond. That's lewiscentral.org/bond. You can find a lot of the information on there. There is a section on there for you to ask questions. And I think the more questions that are asked, the more I can put in that question and answer section to help clear it up, so.
Any questions on that? Have you gotten any feedback yet?
Just a lot of really positive feedback. I've had some questions about what exactly is it not? We've had some, questions about timing. I think that people want to, people will say, this isn't a great time with inflation and the economy and everything else. And I think in one of the responses that I just, just ask them an easy question and just say, when is a good time? Because inflation is incredibly hard to predict. The economy is incredibly hard to predict. We know we have needs now, and we know that we're going to have tremendous needs in the near future. So trying to figure out when is the best time. I think a lot of things people don't understand too is with the change in legislation, we only get one chance every year. So if we try this November and we don't get it and we fail, then we're going to have to regroup and try again next year. And next year, it's going to be 8% higher. So, this might not be the best time, but next year, costs continue to go up every single year. Next year, it's going to be 8% higher. And then the year after that, up to 8% higher. And so trying to figure out when is a good time the answer is really never, So it's never really a good time. It's just when do we need it, and I think we're in a position right now financially where we can take a look at the districts in our area and those districts across the state that we compete with and say, you know what, right now we're at a disadvantage financially, in comparison to what they are levying within their communities. What their communities have allowed them to levy is significantly higher than what our community is allowing us to levy right now. And so we're not even asking to be at those same levels. We're asking to maybe half that level, instead of, $17, $18, what about $13.80, so not necessarily even really close to still what these other communities are currently operating with, so.
And that goes back to 2003?
Yep, 2003, the historical data.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to look up is to see how much it was when we voted for the bond for the high school. Because I think will bring our levy up less than what it was brought up when we voted on the high school.
I'll have to, yeah.
I was thinking that it was 14 something.
Yep, and it looks like it was, if you go back, Dave, to the, looks like in 2003, which had been right after the bond, right after the vote, it looks like it was 1425. And so
Yeah.
right now, estimations are putting the new levy, if this were to pass, at about 1380.
Right, and
So-
actually the vote was like 1999, so.
Right.
So that was a few years even before, and if it had gone down any, or maybe it's around, but I thought we were up past the 14.
Right, so yeah, so we are looking at still being 45 cents less than we've been at our high in the last 20-plus years,
Right.
so.
Right. Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, we'll go on to our discussion items, 7.01, 2023-24, student fees.
So we did have, so by law, we have to adjust our adult meal prices according to the state's requirement. Hold on here, let me get down to it. Sorry, I gotta go to those with the handbooks. Sorry, I lost my page. It's a good thing we don't print these anymore, because the amount of pages that
Yeah.
go into those
That's-
handbooks are.
On this one, it's 74.
So two adjustments. One is the adult meal price. We have to adjust it up. It was at $4.80 last year. We have to adjust it up to $4.85. So that's a state requirement. And then the other one is student activity passes. So they've been $45 for many years. And we're kind of trying to do some comparisons. Seems like $50 in the area is is kind of the usual going rate. We are switching all of our ticket purchases with the change to online. We're now selling all of our tickets through Bound, and Bound is going to charge us a little bit of a fee to do that. So the recommendation is just to kind of have a flat $50. And if it's anything like the $45, it'll stick that way for, the next 10 or 15 years, so. Oh, plus we increased our, back when it was set at $45, it was, $4 or $5 per event for students to attend, and now, everything's an even, 7, isn't it? Yeah. So just the cost of attendance has gone up too, so.
Any questions? Any discussion?
So the activity pass, is that what gets them into games and like
Yes,
events?
unlimited, yep.
Unlimited, okay, cool.
And it's optional, you don't have to. If you're
Yes.
only gonna go to, at $7 an activity, you go to, 7 activities and, 8 activities, which sounds like quite a bit, but we have 5 home football games that I think a lot of our kids go to, and then if they go to 3 events after that, whether it's basketball, volleyball, tennis, track, anything along those lines, then they have it more than paid for. If they're not gonna go to, 8 activities, then they can always just pay at the gate, so.
Or buy the ticket online?
Yeah, or sorry, buy the ticket online, correct.
Because they can't pay at the gate
Well, they
anymore.
can if they have a card. So we have a person at the gate, at every gate, that has a credit card reader. We just don't deal with cash anymore.
Gotcha, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Be surprised at how many kids carry cards these days, too.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's a different world out there.
It is.
Okay, then we'll go on to 7.02, student handbook updates.
So we have, let me see, I gotta find the one-pagers here. We have some updates. Have to just find it independently. Okay, for Titan Hill, and they do, Titan Hill and Crept both have the same calendar update. Dave, I'm going to share this with you so you can put it up there. Dave. Did it come through, Dave?
You did send it, did you?
Yeah. Oh, it's a request I had to send. Okay, I'll just read it to you guys. Sorry about that. I guess I can make a copy. Second. Thank you for your patience.
Need some like Wheel of Fortune music while you're
I
waiting
know.
for the answer.
Technology is great. Okay, Dave, if you can go back to your email. I just sent it to you. Oh, that's middle school one right below it. I sent the middle school one too, just in case. Here we go. All right, just so you guys don't have to go through the whole handbook, here are the changes from the elementary. They did some formatting changes, so they revised the order of information, headings, and table of contents to make it flow better. They revised some of the formatting for the staff pages. They added the Titan head, revised colors on the cover just to make it fresh. They updated the open enrollment policy because it still had the deadline dates in there. So there's no more deadline dates. They updated the bus discipline matrix. You guys approved that change back in the fall, where we now put the bus discipline in the hands of the transportation director instead of in the principals. So that reflects the changes there. They added next year's district calendar. They changed the disciplinary matrix at Crafton Titan Hill to reflect that they are now, instead of, they used to have major and minor referrals. So instead of calling it a minor referral, it's now just a classroom redirection. And so, so that terminology has changed. So that way parents don't see that they have a minor referral and automatically think that their, child did something really horrible or were sent to the office, and then instead it's a classroom redirection. That would be like, you toss the pencil at the ceiling or something like that. Something that wouldn't necessarily, you would get sent to the office for. The teacher might not even call home. They might have just, wanted to document it to make sure that, just had a conversation with you or whatever. So, just trying to change the terminology a little bit because, that's what it's changed to, teacher managed incident. So just so people know exactly what it is. They updated the arrival dismissal times. So if you remember, I changed Titan Hill and Cref's arrival and dismissal times to offset by a good 15 minutes to make sure that parents had an opportunity to get from one building to the next and didn't feel like they were forced to speed or fly in order to get to the next between the buildings. And then changed the references. They still had some Kim Jones references and Lori Teese references to level 1 investigators, curriculum contacts, etc. So they got those changed. They added a progress scale for grading. That's already part of the report card, just updated, and then revised school supply list. So a lot of really minor, just kind of getting it on the right terminology, so, and the right people in there. You guys have any questions about elementary? Okay, Dave, if you go to middle school. Okay, so this kind of sums it up. One second here, I'm gonna go to the next one real quick. Dave, I'm going to share that high school with one for you. One second. Okay, so looking at the middle school, staff names, teaching assignments, that'll still be just kind of giving you a heads up. We have some that aren't filled yet, so if we get them filled, they're going to be input for the fall. The excessive referral policy, disciplinary matrix again, updated some of the consequences, removed, and really for the discipline matrix, they made it a little bit more open. It was a little bit too prescribed, so there might have been some things that would have said, this is a 1 day, but because of the severity, you really need to make it like a 3-day out of school suspension, or might have said this is a 5-day out of school suspension, but in a different context, it really wasn't that severe, so they made it a 1 day. So it's more discretionary based on the severity of the act. The electronics cigarette section is, they removed that. Because it was already addressed in the possession of nicotine, and I think also in the possession of, because electronic cigarettes are also containing HTC, so, or THC, so they, it's already covered in several different areas. Academic integrity, they revised the technology devices prohibited during testing to reflect updated technology. The cell phone policy, they did update the language about social media posts that causes significant disruption during the school day, even if it's posted outside of school hours. So just to clarify, we're not gonna be the after-hours social media police. Like, that's not what we're gonna do. But if what you posted outside of school hours creates a substantial disruption during the school day, we will be able to discipline you for that because of the disruption it's causing during the school day. And it actually happens, quite a bit. And we were doing it anyway because we can by law. It just wasn't specified in the handbook. Open enrollment policy, again, just mirrors the new law. The Wall of Fame section provides clarity on how to qualify early in the year, and then the updated supply list. So, and then they too, in their disciplinary matrix, they too are changing their verbiage from major minor referral to that teacher redirection. So, all three levels are doing it: elementary, middle, and high. And then at the high school, they just kind of clarified some of the language, like for instance, nobody's really carrying around iPods anymore, so they got rid of that. They talked about, they used to allow students to check their cell phone, listen to during school hours, during their scheduled 30-minute lunchtime and passing periods. They're doing it anyway, so that's just one of those things they're having a conversation about, what's appropriate, like we want to treat them like they're professional, like they're, like young adults. We just expect them to behave like such, if there's a downtime and they can check to see what their messages are. Unfortunately, that's how a lot of parents are contacting their students, is not even through the office. They, just go straight to their cell phones. So we've actually had parents get upset when their children don't check their messages, and we remind them, like, they're technically not supposed to be checking their messages. So, trying to figure out how do you balance that. And then, let's see here. They clarified some of the items as far as, like, if you bring them on your own, it's your responsibility. We're not responsible for theft. They clarify some of that's the nuisance item. They clarify the tardy matrix as well, or they added that to the matrix, and then updated open enrollment policy. And then again, with Mrs. Teese leaving and Mrs. Hartman taking over some of that level 1 investigator, equity coordinator, making sure that those names are updated too. So, not just basically updates, nothing huge. The biggest thing would be the change to the disciplinary matrix and what we're calling minor referrals. So, but I think that'll be a good change. So,
Any questions? Okay,
I point out that there's also a draft to the activity handbook. in there
oh
as well.
yes, yep. And the only thing that would be changed in there is the change to the activity fee if you guys approve that. So.
everyone okay with what was presented? Any questions? All right. 7.03, agreement with Bound, activity and fundraising partner.
So we currently use Bound as our ticketing agent. So they're who, if you get online and purchase tickets prior to an event, you go through Bound. Bound also provides other services, like they do like sports stats, they do scheduling, they do trying to think, they do fundraising, they do communication, they do kind of a wide variety of things that they help with. They have put out to schools that if you are interested in not paying the fee for that, because their fee, could be, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 for that fee, that as long as you are willing to do your, they call it fundraising, but it's their donations, as long as you use their site for donations, that they will go ahead and comp those services for you. So we actually won't pay anything for those services. The idea is you would do any of your direct donations through Bound. So if, let's say, the baseball team did a campaign where they made phone calls to people and said, hey, we're really looking, would you be willing to donate $10 or willing to donate $20 or whatever it is to the baseball program, and they want to make a donation, then they would do so through Bound, and Bound would keep, 20% of the proceeds, which is actually in line with like GoFundMe. So GoFundMe is 20%. A lot of these other online services charge a fee, like a 20 to 30% fee for helping to collect and organize those services. We actually don't do a lot of that, like hardly any, as far as straight donations. So it really wouldn't kick in for us. We do more of like the sales, and so they won't get anything from sales. So
We do several in e-funds right now. Would this then prohibit us from doing those? Thinking of classroom party donations?
it's nothing
and
for,
like-
it's only activity related.
Okay,
Yep, so it's only sports or, really only sports related.
okay. good.
So,
Because the charge for an e-funds is a small percentage.
yeah, so e-funds would be more of your academic or classroom type activities. This would be only strictly sports, additional fundraising, so.
Any questions on that? Okay, we'll go to 7.04, SIAC goals.
And I have Mr. Black, for the last time
Oh, don't
in
say
his
that.
prestigious career, presenting our SIAC goals. By the way, I got to experience one of these SIAC meetings last Monday night, and Dave does a phenomenal job with it. So it was engaging. We had a great group of people there, a lot of great ideas, a lot of great feedback, a lot of great conversation. A lot of people I've never met before, so that was awesome to be able to meet some parents, community members I hadn't met. So.
And we had about 40 people here, so it was well-attended. It was good. And one of the perfunctory actions of the SIAC is to present to you annual goals. And so that's what I'm going to do tonight. Just a reminder, the work that we've been about for a long time now has been around these things. Right? Our mission, our vision for kids, what we want to see in the end from kids. It's also held together by sets of beliefs that we find important at LC, right? And so just a reminder that all of this wraps around what we're going to present to you tonight. Our goals last year were very similar to what we had for about 10 years now. We've been about 5 to 6, depending on the year, pillar important concepts here at LC. And what I've done tonight for you is taken each one of those district goals, those 5 goals, and broken them out a little bit, and we're going to present to you annualized versions of those goals for your consideration tonight. Instead of 5, they're going to be 6, because the student achievement one we've actually broken into 2 pieces. I'll talk about that. The first goal is about accelerating growth for all kids. This has been a mantra at LC forever. Right? 25 years ago, we began, when we first used the NWAA product for reading and math, it had metrics in it that allows us to say, how much would typical growth be for a kid? If they started the race here, what would you expect typical growth to be? And we began way back 25 years ago then saying, well, in order to close the gap, that's got to be more than that. And so our mantra all along has been more than a year's worth of growth for every one of our kids. We're reframing that a little bit differently this year. NWA is not the product we use now. We use a product called iReady for grades 3 through 8 in reading, or K through 8 rather, in reading and math. And they have 2 sets of metrics there. One is what typical growth is, But the other is a stretch growth goal that is designed specifically to close that gap for kids, right? And so we know that at the high school, we don't use the iReady product. Iowa has come a long ways, though, in the last few years with the way that ISASP is being done. ISASP now has typical growth measures in as well. They don't have growth goal, or stretch growth measures, but they have typical growth measures. So we've expanded this goal and narrowed it at the same time, saying that really we want more than a year's worth of growth out of every child, what typical would be. But we also want them to meet stretch goals if they're available in the product we're using. So we'd like to frame this goal in that way. Very powerful information, the data from iReady regarding growth goals. The second one is an add to that. One of the things that we've been talking about for a long time, but we haven't really captured as a formalized board goal, district level kind of goal, is what it means to be successful later on after we leave. We've talked about things like, our college and career readiness information, but we've not taken it and presented it as a specific goal. What we'd like to do is recommend that we look at ways to expand high-quality work-related experiences for kids. Now, for some kids, that work-related experience is about also getting a PhD in chemistry so they can teach, in a lab somewhere. Or that's about, getting into a prestigious college that allows them to become a lawyer at the corporate level and do wonderful things in that regard. But we have just as many kids where the real goal for them is not about that. It's not about academic kinds of things. It's about the workplace environment and providing meaningful experiences for them to explore and to identify the kinds of things that they want to be after, to get after certifications if that's something that they're interested in, to move outside simply the academic structures to the work-related, work-based learning opportunities is something that we'd like to encourage the whole system to move toward in a high-quality fashion. So this goal is designed to get after that very intention. It's not just a high school thing. It's across the system. It's STEM related, it's STEAM related, it's all those kinds of things bundled together. At the same time, it's important that we be more deliberate with our language around equity. So that's why the particularly traditionally underrepresented needs to be part of our consideration as we build these experiences for kids, right? So those two goals wrap together to be about the student achievement kinds of things that we're recommending. The next goal, the second goal area that we've been about for a long time is intervention systems, making sure that we're doing the right thing for kids' needs in the moment. Whether that's a struggling kid or a succeeding kid, doesn't matter. It's really about what kinds of systems do we have in place that we agree upon and implement in fair, equitable kinds of ways to make sure that the needs of individual students are being met. This goal is about building on the systems that we have in place for identifying, intervening, and progress monitoring kids in reading, math, and social emotional learning, using evidence-based practice, evidence-based tools, getting better at our MTSS system. That's what this goal is about. One thing we found is that we have good systems, but they sometimes vary building to building. So this is a deliberate intention upon the part of the district leadership team primarily to come to some common defined language that goes deeper than what the state has provided us in this regard. Okay? The third goal that we've dealt with for a while is getting after instruction in the classroom in innovative kinds of ways We really do pride ourselves in being willing to take risks in the classroom, to providing solid professional development for staff to do that kind of thing. What we're looking at now is moving away from our present dated teacher evaluations system toward a more structured, evidence-based, grounded instructional framework. We're going to be using Charlotte Danielson's framework for that work. And this is the initial step in moving the whole system into that evidence-based practice framework. Okay? Talked about it for 3 or 4 years, and we're to the point now, our administrative team has studied it deeply. Well, has studied it. I won't necessarily to say deeply. Our instructional coaches have. We've retooled, in the last meeting, remember you retooled the evaluation process a little bit. We're moving in this kind of direction. We want to be deliberate with Danielson's framework as the focus of our professional development moving forward for next year. The fourth goal that we've had, fourth goal, has been about well-being of students. And in this light, we'd like to narrow our focus a little bit. Right now, in the past, we have had varying approaches to getting after students' well-being and staff's well-being in our system. We're standardizing on a curricula we've been using for a while at the elementary level, and it's working well. We just purchased it for middle school. It's the second step curriculum. And looking at that as something that will provide a stabilizing, standardized approach for getting after mental health and well-being of students and staff. This goal is also framed to be about involving the community more in the kinds of decision-making around SEL issues as well. And the last goal deals with financial stability in the district. This is one, as you recall, we added about 2 years ago. It really has 3 kind of components to it. The first being seeking out other ways of finding revenue on the revenue side of the equation, whether that's grants or specially funded programs, and we've started to have some level of success in that, and I anticipate that will grow. The second part is controlling our expenditures so that we can be in a better position as far as unspent, undesignated balance is concerned. Right now, we have very little flexibility because we've spent more than we probably should have for a little while. And so getting a better handle on that unspent balance is part of it. I don't anticipate spending less in general fund because we're growing. We know that, right? I can tell you now the enrollment work I did today, in fact, is even more reason to make sure we get another kindergarten teacher hired. We had more kindergartners coming in than we had first graders this year already. And we haven't even had registration yet. So we'll have more kids, we'll have more kids to serve, we'll have more expenditures as a result, but we need to control those expenditures in a more deliberate kind of fashion. And Dr. Hazing is certainly moving in that kind of path. And the third part of that financial stability piece is how do we attract and retain the best and brightest to do the great work we have with kids. So that's the third part of that financial stability equation. So, and with that, there are some goals for your consideration tonight. There are 6 of them. There used to be 5. Now we're recommending 6. And so there you go. Have any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you for,
There you go.
thank you for running and organizing the SIAC committee all these years.
You did a great job of capturing all the conversation and ideas and really getting the group to think outside the box and really try to question and analyze current goals and current data. So thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Black.
You betcha.
Very much appreciated.
Okay, this is the second time during our agenda for comments and suggestions from anyone in our audience or anyone online who would like to type something to address the school board? All right. Hearing none, we'll go on to our action items. 9.01, 2023-2024 student fees. Get everyone caught up? Can I get a motion, please?
Back to the page.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston?
I would like to make a motion to approve the following. We're going to increase our adult meal prices to $4.85 to reflect current law. And we also like to increase our student activity pass from $40 to $50 to,
All the others can remain the same.
and all the others will remain the same. Thank you, sir.
One second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes. 9.02, student handbooks updates.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommended changes to all building handbooks.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes. 9.03, agreement with Bound, activity and fundraising partner.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement with Bound.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes. 9.04, SIAC goals.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston?
I'd like to make a motion to approve SIAC goals for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes. And then also, those are all for our action items. We won't be taking any action on this, but we have 9.05, real estate discussion, and per Iowa Code 21.51J, we are allowed to go into closed session to review or discuss the purchase of sale of particular real estate. With that, can I get a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes.